Hello everybody, welcome to today's assembly. It's Monday the 25th of January and that is the birthday of Robert Burns. Now Robert Burns is a very famous poet, a Scottish poet, and he was known as Rabbie Burns or Robbie Burns, and he wrote some of the very most famous Scottish poetry that you would ever know and songs such as Auld Lang Syne. And today we're going to celebrate his birthday, we're going to learn all about him and why he became famous, and we have a PowerPoint slides to have a look through and see how we can learn about Robbie Burns and his famous Scottish poetry. Okay, so let's enjoy the slides together. Burns Night is a celebration of the birthday of the poet Robbie Burns. Burns Night is the celebration held in Scotland and anywhere else around the world, and it's all around the 25th of January. It celebrates the life and work of a famous poet named Robert Burns. You will have special celebrations in Scotland, but also in other places, including New Zealand. This is a statue of Robert Burns. There are many statues of Robert all around the world. This is a statue of Robert Burns at the Burns Monument Centre in Kay Park in Kilmarnock in Scotland. There are many different statues of Robert Burns all around the world. Robbie wrote his first poem when he was 15 years old, and him and his wife Jean had 12 children in their family. Robert Burns was born on the 25th of January, 1759. He was a poet and a songwriter, and he is the most famous around the world. One of his most famous songs is Auld Lang Syne, which is often sung on New Year's Eve and Burns Night. I wonder if you can remember singing that sometime on New Year's Eve with your family. Bagpipes are often played during Burns Night celebrations. Bagpipes are instruments that are played by blowing into reeds and squeezing a bag of air. The reeds are little mouthpieces that sit at the top of the pipes that you can see at the top of the bagpipe. At a Burns Night supper, many people wear clothes made of tartan, including kilts. So tartan and kilts and bagpipes are very much a Scottish tradition. I wonder if you've heard any bagpipe music before. During a Burns Night supper, the haggis, which is a traditional Scottish food, that's when it arrives, is piped in by a piper playing a special tune on the bagpipes. It's a great celebration to welcome the very special supper. On Burns Night, many people have a traditional dinner which they call a Burns supper. The food that they eat usually includes haggis, which is a savoury Scottish food made from meat and oatmeal, which is like porridge oats, and it's often served with neaps, which is a Scottish name for turnip or swede, and tatties, which is the Scottish name for potatoes. At the same time, they have lovely poetry, which was written by Robbie Burns, and it's often read aloud during the celebration and at the start of the celebration to welcome the haggis. Special words are said during a Burns Night supper, and when the haggis arrived, a gentleman here in a kilt and special traditional dress, he opens the haggis using a sword or a knife, and when he does that, he says, "His knife see rustic labour dick." The haggis is sliced open, and that's old-fashioned Scottish writing that came from Robbie Burns. Here's the haggis ready for eating, and as I said, it's made of different meats and savoury oatmeal. On a Burns night supper, a very special prayer is said before the food is eaten, and this prayer is called the Selkirk Grace, and it's a prayer that was written by Robbie Burns.
Some hae meat that canna eat, and some would eat that want it. But we hae meat, and we can eat, so let the Lord be thanked.
On a Burns night supper, a very special prayer is said before the food is served, and this prayer is called the Selkirk Grace, and it is read out by the speaker, and it is the words written by Robbie Burns in the traditional Scottish way.
Some hae meat that canna eat, and some would eat that want it. But we hae meat, and we can eat, so let the Lord be thanked.
Here's the traditional Burns supper ready to eat with the haggis, the neaps and the tatties. Can you remember what the Scottish word neaps was standing for? And that was the swede or turnip, and the tatties are the potatoes. Robbie Burns is still very famous today, and he has been voted the greatest Scot by the Scottish public in a survey held by National Scottish Television Channel STV. There are also a Robert Burns Museum in Alloway, which is the place where he was born. This is Robbie Burns' house where he lived as a child. The Scottish are immensely proud of Robert Burns and they regard him as a national treasure. The Robert Burns Birthplace Museum is situated in the location of Robert's first ever home, and this house was built by his father, William Burnes. It is in Murdoch Lane in Alloway, which is in South Ayrshire in Scotland. Well, children, I've certainly learnt a lot today about Robbie Burns and his famous poetry, and I thought it would be nice to end the assembly today with a short video that has beautiful music, bagpipe music. It did ask you at the beginning of the PowerPoint, had you heard bagpipes before? And this time it's bagpipe music with lovely scenes of Scotland, and they are playing the tune Auld Lang Syne, which was written by Robbie Burns. So I hope you enjoy the video and you've learned lots today about why we celebrate Burns Night today, the 25th of January, on Robbie Burns' birthday. Okay, children, take care and I'll see you next week for another assembly. Bye-bye.